Welcome back, you creeping, crawling creatures. I was gonna say cannibals, but I don't want to assume. to
What to watch now?
Where we talk about what's streaming on Netflix right now. And today we're continuing our long and hopefully never-ending journey of breaking down every single episode of Supernatural. Today's episode is titled Wendigo, and it is Season 1, Episode 2. Now, it's funny as someone who's watched every single episode of Supernatural, and I'm kind of having to go into this and pretend as if I've never seen it before, but I have to reflect at how much they've changed. You know, when these, beginning episodes, they're raw, they're young. It's the first time they are experiencing, which will be kind of like a never-ending cycle in their journey. This is, in the beginning, Dean is weirdly a little more innocent. He's a little more gung-ho to help people, to be dangerous. He's not really thinking of the consequences, even though he's not blind to them. He just, speaking of blindly follows his dad and his word and only cares about his safety. And Sam, who has always been more of the sweet one his whole life, is for the first time really feeling resentful and angry. Well, he was resentful and angry in his youth too, clearly. But clearly even for Dean, he's not used to Sam being this angry. He is taking it out on the Ranger and, telling him off in an unlikely way. He is just going 0 to 100 really quickly, and he's not being really kind and respectful to people like he's more known for. And, Dean doesn't really care if he's friends or working with someone who's a jerk, but he does care about his brother and his brother being the best version of himself. And for Sam, he is a very empathetic, sympathetic type of guy, and for all this built-up anger and just treating anyone like trash is just not like him. So this is definitely, we're in that kind of, I'm trying to get you into that headspace of our boys, they're going through stuff. Now, to start our episode. Now, remember, this is the first season of Supernatural. It is extremely horror movie themed. In fact, actually, what did I write down? I felt like it is part detective and part horror movie. I think that is the best selling point of the whole thing. You feel like you're on a journey breaking down what's happening rather than a horror movie where you feel helpless and monsters are just purely attacking you. And you get to see both the hero's perspective and see them actually win and be really smart in a modern, relatable way. But then at the same time, we get our horror movie where we get to see what the victims are going through and what that's like when the monster's hunting, so we have a better understanding of what they're up against. And I just love that. So anyways, we start off, and some kids are camping. By the way, fun fact, why does anyone camp? At all? This is a side separate story, but the last time I tried to go camping, my boyfriend and I at the time were living in a very hot, swampy, humid location. And that hot, swampy location, we had to drive 2 hours to get to a national park. And when we got there, it was probably the most humid, swampiest, hottest day it could possibly be for the summer. So it took forever to get there. We were at one time followed by a creepy car. That was not fun. So it was already unsettling, Deliverance vibes. And then we got to the national park, we set up, and it was hell on earth. We were being attacked by wasps and gnats, and we were warned there were snakes in the area. And it ended up being I'm very sensitive to heat, and I ended up just full on blacking out. And we decided, okay, we cannot do this. We can't realistically do this and have a good time, and we should just go home, in all honesty. So then we we packed up, drove 2 hours back, and that's how we spent our day. We were never again. But my joking reason of not camping, to be honest with you, is the fear of grizzly bears or creepers. It's just very scary to me to be out in the middle of nowhere, as much as I love nature. So these kids are camping. They're on like rip off Nintendo 3DSs. And it's interesting because I don't think 3DSs existed at this time. So it's really weird to see that they did have a version of a console with 2 screens and one of the screens being touch screened. So I'm like, ooh, maybe they have the copyright to that console. Anyways, so kids are having a good time. Everything's great. And this is when they get attacked by a mysterious monster. We see, moving shadows, tree branches. It looks almost human-like, but it's too quick. But this is my only complaint with this particular creature. It has a weird bear growl at some points and a bobcat growl at other points. Okay. Let me break this down for you. Wendigos are humans that at one time had to eat another human, a cannibal, and they then, through mystic forces, became a Wendigo. Wendigos are super fast, super stealthy. They are smart hunters, but they are principally humans on a kind of smarter zombie level. They do not have, like, a conscience. They don't really... I think there's a certain level of them being stupid because they're just more... Like, they're smart enough to accomplish the task at hunting a person, but I don't think they're learning the alphabet, able to speak, able to take in people's actions and think about it. You know what I mean? There's a bit of a... just like an id personality to them. And they do make sounds, but in my head, I imagine they make kind of like an Aztec whistle sound, which if you're like, what the hell is that? Go look it up. It's the creepiest sound ever. It's called Aztec whistle. They used to like carve out skulls or shape them into skulls or something like that out of human bones. And when you blow through it, it makes this like death rattle sound. It's like really creepy. So like in my head, they would make a version of a human grasping for life out of their breath and not like a bear. You know what I mean? Especially when they make a sound and they're like, that's not a bear. I'm like, that's literally a recording of a bear. I think you're wrong on that one. But anyways, principally these boys all get dragged off, taken by a mysterious creature. Also, other thing that I thought was really funny and interesting. I know this is keep in mind, this is just me having fun conversationally about this, but I thought it was funny when they were getting the different boys. They grabbed 2 of the boys pretty heartlessly, just like grabbed them through the tent. But the last boy, the main character's like brother, Tommy, they kind of like waited a second. They like built up suspense. Now I understand for the sake of filming, that's just like a fun thing they did, obviously. But keep in mind, I don't think that's what would really happen. Again, Wendigos are very fast, very id-like. They're not interested in playing with their food psychologically. They just want to eat and get done what they want to get done. So I thought that was really funny to have that build up, but that's like a side note. Then we go back and we flash over to Dean, and he's at Jess's grave. He's grieving her. Remember, we want to slow clap for Jess. She's the whole reason the Supernatural series exists. Sam would not be hanging out with Dean. He would be at college right now and have some sort of profession and maybe every now and then help Dean, but I do not think he would have become the full-on hunter and had all the adventures he's had if Jess hadn't died. So, sorry, Jess. Thank you for taking one for the team. We really appreciate it. Anyways, that ends up being like a fun fake out where it's actually just a nightmare, and even her hand like grabs through the grave. It's very Tales from the Crypt, and that again occurring horror movie vibe. So it kind of almost makes me feel like between the like humor and self-awareness to all of it mixed with the actual horror, it's kind of got Scream vibes. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you see the similarity there with like the intelligent conversations and stuff like that? Anyways, we get something you'll probably literally never hear ever again in the series. Dean, in a kind gesture, because he sees Sam is hurting about Jess, offers, do you want to drive baby? His car. That's never going to happen again. Enjoy that. That is just a super rare moment. He is possessive as hell. They drive for hours and hours and hours, like 20, 30 hours at a time, and Dean will just drive straight. He is the only one, no one's touching baby. So that's a super rare moment. But anyways, now we get our motivation for the episode. Because, like, remember, when this was a show that existed originally on WB, rest its soul, before the CW and everything like that, they needed to, this is the first couple seasons before they really had the fandom they do now, and they needed to make sure that they were constantly giving you a motivation from episode to episode, because it's a bit of, like I said in the previous review, it's like a Scooby-Doo-esque episode where every episode maybe has like a general idea that they want to find their dad, but every episode's more just about hunting monsters and like confronting their issues. So the motivation in this episode is just like, I'm grieving over Jess, but if you want to get the thing that got Jess, we gotta find Dad. Because it's not a coincidence that the same thing that killed Jess came back 20 years later. Like, we gotta go find him. So that's why they're following the coordinates that were in the journal that will lead them to this place in the middle of the woods, which is super mysterious because they're used to being led to cases that are even found in newspapers, things that are tangible. This just seems so obscure. I mean, even through most of the series of Supernatural, they don't too often deal with creatures that are just truly in the wild. You know what I mean? Like, most of the creatures are basically like humans with contacts and fangs, you know what I mean? But that, I don't really have a problem with that. I love when my monsters talk back, you know what I mean? So this is one of those rare episodes where they like did full horror makeup for the creature, did a little bit of CGI, like it's super fun. Anyway, so they go to find out, they do a little digging up information. They find out about the boys missing, and they also hear about a sister who wants to meet them. And this is when we meet our main, like, victim. I guess they'll just be called main victims. Our main victim, Haley. Haley is a lovely, cool girl, just Dean's type. In fact, she even compliments his car, and he's, like, hot for her. And this is honestly one of those great moments where, like, you genuinely feel a connection between them. And, like, I'm okay that Dean and Sam don't usually end up with these girls they have a connection with, but I like taking an extra moment to stare at someone, whether it be sentimental or romantic. So I appreciate in these earlier episodes, they're really, like, giving that, we're building a connection with that character. So he thinks she's hot, and he even builds a bit of a similarity between the two of them, because background story between her and her other brothers, she's a younger brother in this, which, by the way, super crazy, Supernatural is like the Law and Order of characters or people, actors getting their start. In this episode, we don't have one, but we have two people that I was like, oh my god! One was the poor guy that passed away from Glee, the actor, that guy, and I think his name's like Christian or something. I didn't watch Glee, but I'm aware of his face. And the guy who played Han Solo recently in the newest movie, and he also was in Beautiful Creatures, he's like a baby in this one. I was like, oh my god, that's so crazy. I was like, Han Solo's here! Anyways, so she and her brothers lost their parents a while ago, and they're really close. They, like, check in with each other every day. They even went through the effort of getting the older brother a satellite phone, and the satellite phone, he checks in with videos every day, every couple hours. Like, they're obsessively connected. Clearly, they were very scarred by their parents' death. So she doesn't care what the ranger says about her brother getting some sort of permit to be out there till the 24th, and it's not unusual he hasn't returned since then. It's not like him to not show up. So that's enough motivation for her, and honestly enough motivation for everybody. But Dean really, like, bonds with her when he eventually opens up and he doesn't full on say he's a hunter, but he's like, they, like, bond over she's like, I know you're not a ranger. He says, I'm looking for my dad. She's like, I'm looking for my brother. He's like, I really can get that feeling of knowing, like, you just have to do it. No one can tell you otherwise. And that take control of the situation attitude. And so they bond over that, and she's really likable. She kind of weirdly gives me vibes and kind of looks like she could easily be the daughter or younger sister of the psychic we're going to meet later on, like many seasons from now. Do you know what I'm talking about? The one that goes blind. I'm just, to anyone who's aware of Supernatural, I'm just gonna put that little Easter egg there. Drop it into your head. Anyways, so they go out all together into the woods with an additional ranger they've hired, who's going to lead the way, protect them. We get a little bit of an ego thing back and forth between Dean and the ranger, because, you know, the ranger clearly does know more about the wild, even protecting Dean from a bear trap. But Dean's like, you don't understand. This isn't about nature. This is a supernatural occurrence. Like, you don't even know, you idiot. So, yes. They get there, and all the while, when they get there, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's dead silent, this is creepy, there's no crickets. One of the best, to me, horror signs ever. Have you ever been like that, where you've been somewhere and you're like, you can just feel it's off? And that's, to me, is one of the best ways to describe how something's off, if there's no life. No deer, nothing. Like, creatures, like, animals just know when something's wrong. Like, do you ever catch your cat or your dog just staring at something and you're like, what are you looking at? What are you looking at? Tell me! Let me know! Let me in on your vision! So, while that's happening, we keep flashing back to the poor victims, and poor Tommy. I mean, thank goodness he's alive, but he's hanging from the ceiling in this, like, old abandoned mine shaft, and the creature we don't get a clear vision of is eating his friends alive, and Tommy can only turn his back and just squinch, and, like, you know what's so funny about Supernatural? They do save people, but they do not shy away from the grittiness of if this was a real life situation and saving situation. I would, even though people, you know, monsters like this might not necessarily, we don't have, like, true proof if these things actually exist, but, like, there are versions of monsters in the real life, and I'm referring to, like, when humans are not being good people. And when people experience devastating things, like, you might have been saved, but it's like, was it really worth it? Like, you're messed up afterwards. You have PTSD to the intensity. If anyone wants to use that for their next rap song, you can take it. So anyways, he has to unfortunately go through this, like, terrible, horrific accident. And this is definitely... Okay, you're gonna notice a shift in Supernatural. I think it's maybe, like, season 5, where they were able to convey successfully, without fully showing it, goriness in the, I'm trying to avoid saying intensity, like, a million times. I always, like, every episode have, like, one word that I pick, and it's like, that's my word I use all episode. I keep saying connection. But the... trying to be creative here. The stakes, how serious a situation is. And they do that with, like, you know, when Tommy turns away, you can hear the crunching and maybe a little bit of flailing. And it's enough of a picture in your head to creep you out, but it definitely keeps them on the air and not, like, you know, going against any rated R's. And if you're very squeamish or you don't like that, you know, intense or extreme of a gory type movie, this can still work for you. But in season, like, I think it's 5 or 6, whoever took over was like, I want blood, I want bones breaking, I want it to ruin your image and your nightmares forever. They turned the gore up and, like, very hard. So if you're enjoying this now, enjoy it while you can before that season comes. So they end up quickly getting it broken to them that the Wendigo is, you know, like, it's a thing, it's real, wake up, we're surrounded by these monsters. They hear how the Wendigo is really smart and creepy. This is how Sam realizes it right away. They hear screaming of Tommy, everyone runs in that position. They realize they're not there. Sam realizes what it is and is horrified when they go back to the campsite. All their packings and stuff are gone, so they don't have any food rations, things that are very helpful when, you know, surviving in the wild. And he is aware of how intelligent this creature is, and he puts 2 and 2 together. It's enough evidence for him, and he tells Dean privately, this is a Wendigo. Now, again, a refresher for Wendigos. So they are humans. They said Native Americans, but it's definitely not reserved to only Native Americans. But these creatures basically eat humans, become very elongated, gain supernatural abilities. They are smart. They can mimic human voices, specifically mimicking horror screams and that type of thing to draw people out as a form of hunting. And they usually will live and hibernate and keep their prey that they eat alive. I know, this is terrifying. If this is real, I really hope not. They will keep them in a cave. Often, they actually had a recent game, I think it was like Until Dawn, which used Wendigos. And those Wendigos lived in mine shafts. That's also a very common thing because there's lots of abandoned mine shafts, which is like perfect little area for them to live and everything like that. By the way, if you're interested, I actually talk about a branch of Wendigo on my other podcast with my pardon me. It's like the first episode. It's called Mystery Story Time. You can go listen to it right now. It's lots of spooky stories and supernatural creatures, in fact. And the Tick Belong is a branch off of Wendigos. It's kind of like the Filipino Wendigos, which I don't know why they compare the two because they're so vastly different. But, I mean, I talk about that on the podcast. So if you're interested, go check that out. Actually, I want to do a whole story on Wendigos soon, so keep your ears out for that. Anyway, they give them the lowdown that this guy is trying to draw them out, separate them, kill them one by one. It's very smart. Be aware. They even use what did I write down? It was called Anasai symbols to protect around the camp. Now, Anasai is a form of Navajo Indians, and if I'm correct, again, covered on the Mystery Storytime podcast, Anasai is I'm probably butchering this, so if I am, I so apologize, but it sounds a lot like a spider deity they believed in, the Wajubi tribe. They were the ones that began the whole Dreamcatcher movement, and they believed that this spider spirit or spider deity would go through the dream catchers and protect their children from like negative energies and psychic forces and nightmares and stuff like that. And when their tribe got really big and spread out throughout North America, they were afraid this spider deity couldn't find them. So the dream catchers were a version of popping through these like different mystic portals to be able to find all the children throughout such a vast region. So I wonder if it's related to that. I'm just curious because it is a protective spirit, so it makes sense they would use those symbols. So I thought that was pretty cool. So anyways, Dean thinks that the dad wants the two boys to work together. If that is the case, I just want to mention that is messed up. That is so messed up. We know from the very first episode, Sam is like, Dad didn't want me to do anything I wanted to do. And even more messed up, most parents want their kids to want to go to college. And this kid did, and went out on his own to make it happen, despite all odds. And most kids, with parents helping, it's quite difficult. So that's quite an achievement. And then he goes out on his own, and he's going to graduate, he's going to pass this test, he's kind of like at that pinnacle moment, and he ends up getting kind of hijacked from his life he worked so hard for. That seems pretty messed up to say, like, well, I want you guys to work together, this is more important, when, like, hunting's more of, like, your prerogative, and there's plenty of hunters out there. Like, you don't have to be the only hunter. There will always be people trying to fight the bad, so it's pretty messed up. But I get it. Dean's coming from a place who's, like, blindly loving and following everything his dad says. He's just, like, I don't mean to be insultive to Dean's character at this point, but he's, like, a well-trained dog. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, good news. Some mishaps happen. Some more people get kidnapped, as you do, because, again, the stakes are high. People really do get hurt, get messed up, even our hunters. But Tommy, Dean gets captured and Haley gets captured, but Tommy, Dean, and Haley get saved. They save them, and they even successfully shoot the Wendigo with a fire gun, fire safe. You know when you shoot it up in the air to protect yourself, or to, like, let people know you're in danger? They shoot it with that, and the fire helps it implode. Because, again, Wendigos are so impervious that they can't even die from bullets. It's quite difficult to kill them. I mean, they'll hack you up before you can even get close enough to do anything. And obviously, they're going to dodge fire successfully. So that was, like, a perfect weapon idea. And we got them saved. I mean, they're probably so messed up after this and they'll never go camping again, but they got saved. But before we end talking about this episode, I want to talk about something that I was like contemplating about this whole lifestyle as a hunter. You know, being a hunter is the weirdest. I mean, it must put you in such an existential life crisis every moment of your life. Because a lot of these hunters go into every situation knowing they are not smarter or better than the creature they are given. They are aware that they could die. It's totally on the cards every single time, no matter how much more skilled they get. Accidents happen, things happen. Sometimes they're anticipating hunters, so on and so forth. So they're willing to go into this. They also are willing to sacrifice themselves in the moment very quickly because that's always their main goal. It's not worth living another day and knowing they didn't save this one person. They are living every case for that one person. Their life is trash. It's worth giving away if they just save at least one person. But often to be a hunter, you do make it many times. Even if you live for a while, you live successfully as a hunter. So you're kind of always aware that you're right close to death and it's always getting taken away from you. And you probably, not every case gets done well and clean. People probably die in the process. So you carry a sense of guilt at all times and you start to feel like life is kind of meaningless. And maybe you even start to feel negatively towards God because you think, like if you are religious, because you might think, well, clearly God or any potentially positive force isn't looking out for us humans if these creatures attack and are allowing these innocent people to be hurt. So you can see how they often are getting drunk and don't really care about themselves enough to go out and clean up their... It's like, I know they're living off stolen identities and like credit cards, but they could go out and buy like a new just brown jacket and they never want to. They allow themselves to be trash. They feel they are trash. And yet there's still that duality of thinking they are able to, they're the only person that can save people. So they're good enough to save people, but they're not good enough to be saved. It's so sad and dark and compelling, and you can see why it's really fun from one moment seeing them deal with this type of mental energy and make jokes and try to make light of the situation, be very darkly cynical after the stuff they've seen, and try to make sense of the bigger picture, but then the next moment kind of break down and remember, like, you know, be very human and get real and talk about someone they love dying or, you know, what does this all mean? And I think that is the most extreme but understandable human experience. Like, you might not be a hunter, but whether it be the jokes or the sad stuff, they're very relatable. And we've all been there. And I can see why this show is so lovable because it hides all of this stuff amongst, like, some fun, campy horror and monster stuff. So it's pretty cool. It's a great show. Anyways, I look forward to going through many more episodes with you. If you liked this episode, please feel free to give it a 5-star review on iTunes and follow and like on any platform you are listening to. It helps so much. And if you could just tell a friend, whisper to a friend, email a friend, let them know there's a cool podcast they should be listening to. I'd greatly appreciate it. But above all, guys, thank you so much for joining me for another fun episode. This episode was also sponsored by me. I wrote a book series entitled Little Witch Detective by R.T. Paws. You can get it on Amazon right now. And yeah, I can't wait to keep reviewing this. I'm going to do more episodes soon. See you guys tomorrow. Bye!